All right, guys, so welcome to the first piece of your extra credit that's going to be available. The idea behind this is we need a lot of extra practice on this standard that we're going to be looking at, which is, let me get ink going here, which is standard 8. Why isn't this working? 8 EE.7. So standard 8 EE.7, which is essentially just meaning that we are going to be looking at how to solve multi-step equations, which is actually really simple. So what I want you to think about while we're doing this is over here I'm going to put some key notes that I want you referencing back, and you're putting these notes on your page as well. Step 1, every time, remember the goal. Now, what is the goal, you might ask? The goal is for us to get our variable. The goal is for us to get our variable, my goodness. Well, it's not going to work there. Our goal is for us to get our variable on one side of the equal sign and all the numbers, the constants, on the other side. So remember the goal, variable, isolated, which means alone. So our first step is going to be really our first step is going to be distribute if we need to. Distribute, and you're writing this down, if needed. So in any problem that has parentheses, we're going to distribute first. Step 3, move all constants, meaning numbers, to one side. Step 4, move all variables to the other side. And step 5, very simply, is divide to solve if needed. And you'll see what that means in just a second. There's one thing that I didn't put in here that I just want to make sure we know, and this is 100% my fault. One thing we also need to do right in this step right here is combine like terms. Forgot to mention that, but that's something that should come reasonably easy. We'll see. So we're going to do a few of these selected ones together, and then your extra credit is going to be finishing them if that's something you're interested in doing. So step 1, remember the goal. Variable, isolated. So I look here and I say, okay, number 1, is my variable alone? The answer is no, my variables are not alone. So then I'm going to go to step 2. Distribute if needed. Do I have any distribution in here? I do not. I do not have any parentheses to distribute through. So step 2 is done. Now let's combine our like terms. Do I have any like terms? Well, yes, I have 4n minus 2n. So I'm going to do that. 4n minus 2n gives me 2n equals 4. Now, step 3, move all constants to one side. Well, I have a constant here and no variables. And I have a variable here and no constants. So that step is done. We're good. Next, move all variables to the other side. We just went over that. We're fine on that. Finally, divide to solve if needed. Well, here I have 2 times n. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 2, which then produces n equals 4 divided by 2 is 2. Did I accomplish my goal, my variable alone? Yes, I did. My variable is alone and everything else is on the other side. So that's good. Now, we're going to go to number 5 really quickly. And we're going to do a couple more complicated ones. But again, you're doing this the majority of the page on your own. Step number 1, remember the goal. What do we want? We want k by itself. So I go to step 2, distribute if needed. There's no distribution in this problem, so I don't need to do anything. Step 2.5, we'll call it, is combine like terms. So let's come down here and let's combine like terms. I have a negative 2k minus 3k. Hopefully you see that negative 2k minus 3k is going to produce this. I have negative 12, because that comes down, equal sign, 3 minus 5k, because I had a negative 2 minus 3 more is going to give me negative 5. If this is helpful, we are now going to draw the line through the equal sign so that we know what is where. We're going to proceed from there. Negative 12 remains where it is. We have 3 minus 5k. Step 3 is move all of my constants to one side. Well, what constants do I have? I have this. I have this. My goal is to get the k by itself, so I'm going to move the 3 away from the 12. The way I move the 3 away from the 12 is I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, which then gives me negative 15 equals negative 5k. My next step is to move all variables to one side. That's already done. And my final step is to divide. So I'm going to divide by negative 5, divide by negative 5. And that leaves me with k, or let me write this in the correct order that you're going to solve it for. Negative 15 divided by negative 5 is going to give you 3. So 3 is equal to k. Did I accomplish my goal? Yes, I did. I have k, my variable, by itself. Now, we're going to go through another one of these. Let me clear all this out. And we're going to go to number 8. Now, let's draw our line. Let's go through the steps. Step 1, distribute if necessary. I do need to distribute here, so I do this. Please remember, this is the main mistake a bunch of us are making. When we distribute, this negative carries through, and this negative right here is with the 8. So we need to make sure that we bring these along. Negative 3 times 4r gives me negative 12r. And just so you see where these things are coming from, I'm actually going to use a couple different colors. If you already see this and this confuses you, please don't let this completely freak you out. So what I end up getting here is this. Let's go back to that lime color. -3 times 4 gives me -12r. And then I have -3 times -8, which is actually plus 24. -36. Now, step 2.5. Combine any like terms. I don't actually have any like terms over here on this side because we see in the green I have 12r, and in the purple I have 24. So the purple is my constant. I'm sorry, not 24, -36. We have the purple is our constants. Now, step 3 is to get all of my constants onto one side. I'm going to say, okay, what's a way that I can get my 24 onto one side? Well, if it's positive, I can subtract 24 from both sides. Now what that leaves me with over here is -12r. And over here leaves me with -36 minus 24 more is going to give me -60. Because both are negative, which means I'm going to add them and keep the sign, which is negative. I then need to make sure that I am getting all of my variables on one side. This is perfect. I now have all my variables in green on one side and all of my constants in purple on the other side. Here's what I'm going to do now. In order to get rid of this multiplier, we're actually going to start treating this multiplier not as a variable anymore, because we're going to divide it away from the variable. That leaves me with r by itself. R equals, well, what is -60 divided by -12? Well, it's 5. So I've finished up with r equals 5. And again, hopefully these colors helped you see I need my variable, which is this green r on one side, and on the other side I need my 5, my constant. I need my variable by itself. We're going to do one more slightly more complicated one, and again we're going to use these colors because hopefully they will help you see what's happening here. Going to separate these, throw in an equal sign down here so we know what we're doing. And again, we'll use the green for the variables. I see that this 6 is going to multiply by a variable, so it's green. This is going to multiply by constant. That's all my distribution. So let's come down here and write these down. I have 36v. The plus sign is with the 6, so plus 36 minus 5. Now, in purple I have my constants. They're the things that are not with the variable. And in the green I have my variable and its coefficient. Over here I have 1, and the plus is with the 6v. Here's what we've got. Now, we need to get things on the proper sides. So we do that. We say, okay, let's combine our like terms first. 36 minus 5 gives me 31. That's 1. And in green, there's 36. And the 6v remain the same. I forgot to add this plus sign here. Okay. Now, what I need to do, and I forgot my v, oh my goodness. What I need to do now is I need to go through and get all of my constants on one side and all my variables on the other side. This 36v looks like it's the bigger one, so I'm not going to move it. So I'm going to sacrifice and move this negative 31. I'm going to subtract 31 from both sides. Now, this 31 is not going to affect the V because you see they're different colors. They're not going to affect each other. So on this side now I'm left with 36V equals, well, 1 minus 31, hopefully you see is negative 30 plus 6V. Now from here, I want to get my 6V, this green, over to this side. Hopefully you see that that leaves me with 30V equals negative 30. And just as we did before, let me zoom in so I can actually write this. Just as we did before, now that we're at this step, we're going to stop treating this 30 as a green. We're going to start treating it as a purple. We're going to stop treating it as a variable coefficient, which means the thing multiplying by the variable. And we're going to start treating it as its own number. So when I divide, that leaves me with V equals, well, negative 30 divided by 30 gives me negative 1. This being my final answer. Using that, your job is to complete the rest of the page. There is one quick rule about this though. That rule is this. If you are a phi, phis are completing 15 through 20. Sigmas are completing 9 through 14, and deltas are completing 1 through 8. Again, this is extra credit. You will be earning points, 1 point of extra credit for every one of these you've done correctly. If you want to do more than your share, that's perfectly fine. But in order to get credit, you must complete those specific parts. Now, the answers are down here. And that's totally fine. Those are designed so that you can explain it. However, you must show your work in order to get credit. You have to show all of your steps. And again, as you see, this would get credit. However, simply looking at something and saying, okay, well, 11 is negative 1, or this right here would get no credit. So, good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.